Man, I can't wait to drive this thing already. Hey, what's up guys? Today will be a very interesting video. You guys been wanting to see an actual finished product of the engine bay on my car. I may be able to do that today. Today we're going to work back in the engine bay on my E36. I definitely want to get the intake manifold and fuel system finished, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with that first. Normally the first thing I will do is to remove the intake manifold, but I want to install the radiator first so I can put the hoses and the reservoir to have fitment of where everything is gonna go before I start adding fuel lines and stuff. This is the radiator that I want to run on my car, which I had in my previous E36, but this time I want to install an electric fan instead of the fan clutch. As you can see, I already run into some issues where I have to find where do I mount this at. I will need to remove the stock shroud before I can test fit the new thing. There's like a fan switch sensor that goes here, but I don't have it anymore. So I'm gonna just plug the hole with this. Now I can test fit the new fan. It doesn't fit back here. Now that I got the radiator fan shroud installed, all I have to do is put on the two bolts that hold it on the top. Now that I know how much room the radiator is occupying, I want to install the turbo and the intercooler pipe again so I can see exactly where should I fit the reservoir bottle without interfering with any other components. I will now be doing the final installation of the turbo, so this time it's actually going on tight all the way and not taking it back out. I removed the compressor housing so it'll be a lot easier to get to the turbo flange bolt. I have the gasket already set up, I have the bolts that I'm going to use, and then I have the new sealant that I will be using, which is Turbocharger RTV. This is some super high heat stuff. I'll be applying a little thin bead on the gasket on both sides to make sure I have perfect sealing against both surfaces. That's pretty much what you want. Then now you spread it so it just has a little thin film and remove all the excess. That's a perfect coverage of what you need. Now on this side, I will be installing the gasket with the raised side up. It will go like this. Now there's not enough silicone on it to actually make it stick. So I'll just put it on the turbo and hold it with one of the bolts. I have the two bottom bolts already installed. Now I have to do the top three, the other two. Now you can see why I had the housing removed. It's a lot easier to get my hands inside this thing so I can actually put these bolts on. All four bolts are already on. Now I need to tighten them. I wonder if you guys actually will get mad if I ended up removing the turbo anytime soon again. I'm not saying I might remove it, but I'm just saying there's a chance I may end up removing it. This is what the turbo looks like with no compressor housing from the front. So nice, so literally exhaust gas goes through the exhaust side, move the exhaust wheel, which propels the compressor wheel and pushes air into the engine, creating boost. Now, that's where this thing comes in. To control how much boost you make, you need a wastegate. So it diverts some of the exhaust gases away from the wheel. It lowers the RPMs of the turbo to lower boost. Or better said, regulate boost. The things I have to do to fit turbo on my car. See, it's not really too much of a sharp bend. It's actually pretty rounded out. So it literally goes like this, turns pretty evenly and then turns again. So there's no sharp corners on this thing. Another thing, the inside of the turbo is about 2 inches and then this tube is 2.5. So even if it was a sharp turn, it's not restricting the flow. You can even see from the back side the turbo to pipe size difference. Yeah, look at those wells, bro. What's up? Now we're going to install the compressor housing. Normally you have two configurations, either flange on the back or a big circlip. This one has 3 flanges with 2 bolts each, so it's holding the compressor housing to the core with 6 bolts and 3 flanges. Now that I installed a lower intercooler pipe and line it up with the charge pipe, I can now tighten the bolts in the compressor now that I have my alignment on where I want it. So you can see it's very close to the valve cover. I'll need to also install a cold side pipe. Now I can determine where the reservoir will fit. Radiator is now installed. I decided I will put the reservoir on the factory location. I've seen a couple of people just literally just hold a zip tie around it to this bracket and it seems to hold pretty good. It's not much room for it to go anywhere. That way the lines fit like stock. It goes underneath over there. Probably have to drill some holes and zip tie the lower hose to the radiator's fan shroud. The hose is connected over there. Now I can actually work with the intake manifold and work with the fuel system. To gain easier access to the intake manifold bolts, you will have to remove this back thing for the windshield. I already had it like not bolt in, so it will be a lot easier to remove since I still have to work over there. I'll need to once again remove the cold pipe. There are 7 intake manifold studs. These are 7/16 or 11mm bolts. Also gotta remove this hose for the brake booster. What do we have here? Current cooling system configuration has 3 hoses. One goes to the reservoir, then another one goes to the heater, and then you have another one over there goes from the back of the block. So what I'll need to do, I'll need to loop this one back into this other tube, and this one is gonna go straight to the reservoir, then from the reservoir to the top of the radiator to bleed the steam off. This is one little trick I had made before with my engine to have a proper oil feed line to the turbo. I use a bolt that I use the factory banjo that goes to the vanos, but since I did it at the vanos, I welded out this bung over here which has a 1/8 MPT, and I can use it to put an additional oil pressure sensor, but in this case I'll probably be using the factory one. We'll start by removing these 2 hoses. There you go. After a few painful attempts, I finally managed to put the hose in this thing. You can tell this side is a lot bigger than this side, so I have to stretch the 3/4 or 3/4 hose over this size. And as you can tell, I missed a few times, so I keep hitting my hand against it, just smashing against the engine block, which hurts a lot. Hopefully this side will go in and still needs a little bit of massaging to go in there. Here we go, WD-40. Oh, I spray all over my hand. Missed. There, now I got a proper loop for the cooling system so it doesn't have any hot spots, so you can keep the water recirculating throughout the block and head. I like using the factory clamps because these German clamps are a lot stronger than the ones you can buy at the auto parts. So I'd rather just use these. Now that the cooling system is finally figured out and I got all the hoses how I want them, now I can move on to the fuel system. The first thing I was trying to do was to cover this hole. I was gonna use one of these expanding plugs which literally put in, once you tighten it, it starts squishing the rubber together so it expands it and locks in. But I got the wrong size. Meaning the next thing that I'm gonna be doing is installing the fuel injectors. First, I will need to remove the fuel rail, which is 2 10mm bolts. Notice with these fuel injectors, they won't come off. They have this little clip that you have to remove, and then you can remove them. So the same thing is gonna happen with the new injectors. I already had grinded off. On the new injectors, I grinded this little line because this one wouldn't fit. So I got this little line right here so I can put the factory clip on it and have the retainer installed on the injector. First, put the injector. Now, the retainer clip. So now, this injector is not going anywhere. I just need to do 5 more. Now I can reinstall the fuel rail back into the manifold. Make sure that all the O-rings sit properly, that none of them get kinked and like come out, because then you're gonna have a vacuum leak, or in my case, you're gonna have a boost leak. Reinstall the 2 bolts. And done. Next is a fuel system, but I don't want to use all this stuff. This is a lot of lines and stuff I don't need. Plus, these lines are a little bit dry rotted, so I don't want to risk having a fire by having a line leaking fuel, so I'll just use brand new line, and I will also eliminate all these hard lines and just run a straight hose into the fuel rail. That leaves me now with just a fuel filter bracket and fuel filter by itself. Now I can run a fresh line from here to the feed line from the chassis, and then from the top to the fuel rail. On the BMW engine, the filter will go installed about right there, right in front of the starter. Now that I got the fuel filter installed, I'm gonna use some 5/16 fuel injection hose. When you get fuel hose, make sure that you get fuel injection hose, which will say it on it. Right there, fuel injection hose. If you don't get this, you will most likely get carburetor hose, which is rated for low pressure, and your hose will burst and you may catch your car on fire. Please make sure if you're gonna replace the fuel hoses in your car, you get high pressure fuel injection hose, which is reinforced and it's the right stuff for your application. And to top it off, I got me some fuel injection hose clamps, which will not damage the hose. Since the hose goes straight up into the starter, I went and ran it underneath this water line right here, so it pushes it down. And now I'm gonna test fit the intake manifold back on so I know how much hose do I need. With the intake manifold installed, now I can see how much hose do I need. There's a fitting right there. So I'm gonna give it just a little bit of slack and I'll cut it right about here, right here. Will you look at that professional cut right there? Look at that. So you can see this hose is very reinforced to hold high pressure. That means I already have the majority of the fuel system installed. Next, I will need to install an adjustable fuel pressure regulator, since I will not be using the stock one. Well, the stock one is gonna stay there, but it's not gonna be controlling the fuel pressure. That one's just gonna be there with no vacuum hose, so it just goes bypass and like about 40 PSI maximum. And then the adjustable fuel pressure regulator will take care of the rest. So I figured out that mounting it about right here will be ideal. So I will need to, again, remove the intake manifold so I can put the bolt on this thing and see how it looks. This is where the fuel regulator will be mounted. Now I need to install the fittings for it. As like always, put some tread sealant on this fittings. Remove the excess, you don't want too much. ran into a problem where the fitting is not long enough, as the fitting on the bar gauge is a lot longer, so it doesn't interfere with the housing on the gauge. So you can see this problem right here, where I use this one, it will hit on this and it won't tighten all the way down, and I'll have a fuel leak. I don't know if I can get it to like display the right side up. So a little bit more. And I got it. Yes, it's facing the right way. Here's the final fitment with the charge pipe installed and the intake manifold installed. The cold pipe installed. It has like very little room, but that's the best place I could get it, because I didn't want to get it on the front side, because then the tire will shoot stuff at it and I don't want it to get damaged. I need to run a hose from this fitting to this side fitting now. I got the fuel inlet hose installed, no clamp yet. Fuel outlet hose also installed, no clamp. And then this is how it fits right underneath the plug and everything, super clean installed. And using the best of the space in your engine bay, with it installed in a proper location so it doesn't get damaged. I think it really looks good. I guess this is gonna be it for today's video. I actually managed to accomplish everything I wanted to do. Very long day of work today. I really like little tasks that it may not be a lot, but are very tedious things to do in the car, which are also very important for the lifetime of your car and the way it's gonna work. You want it to also be sure that it's good at the truck. You don't like I say, this little thing, if you do it wrong, you will get a fuel leak and your car will catch on fire. You don't want that. So this is how I normally do it on race cars. Obviously on race cars I do braided line, but this is a straight car. It was also being built on a very low budget. I don't have like a lot of money to spend on the car yet. I'm trying to start with this whole project. Later on, I actually plan on in the future buying more E36s and doing more projects with different engines, so you guys can see more work and also more into detail with other things and different versions of the builds that you can do, not only just doing a turbo stock engine from the M3. With this now, I think it's time to close the video so I can get to editing. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want, which I'm pretty sure you will like a couple of my other videos, I got a bunch of different sections of the cars that I've been doing in various videos. So if you want to learn specific things, either I probably already did a video about it or I will be doing a video about it soon. See you guys tomorrow.